I used to believe that no matter how cruel the world could be, a mother's love would always protect you. I was wrong. Dead wrong. 12 years ago, I left my village with nothing but a dream and a promise to myself. I would never look back. I had no idea what my mother had done in those years while I was gone, what she had traded without my knowledge, and how deeply it would affect the life I thought I had finally built. I woke up that morning with a strange heaviness pressing on my chest. The dream had come again, the one where I was standing in my old room, staring at the walls that seemed to move like veins, dark lines creeping across them as if they were alive. And there, sitting on my childhood bed, was a figure I could not fully see, whispering a name only my mother and late father ever called me. That's when I knew it was time to go back. You're watching Tales by Omo, where the truth comes alive, where family secrets are revealed, and where every story will keep you at the edge of your seat. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear is real, it's raw, and it could change how you see the people closest to you. This is Tales by Omo, and this is a story you don't want to miss. My name is Temilola. I'm 32. Single, and after years of struggle in the city, I have finally carved out a life for myself. Comfortable, independent, a life my younger self could only dream of. And yet, something had been pulling at me for months, a feeling I could not ignore, a restlessness that no amount of city comfort could silence. I called my mother. "Mama, I'm coming home next week," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. There was a pause. Long and uncomfortable. Then she asked, simply, "Why?" Not, "I've missed you," not, "Thank God you're safe," just, "Why?" That should have warned me. The village looked smaller than I remembered. The same dusty roads, the broken sign at the entrance, the old mango tree beside our compound. But the way people stared, whispered, or quickly looked away made me realize this was not the village I left. Something had changed. When I entered our family house, my mother appeared. She looked older, thinner, her eyes tired and guarded. She hugged me, but her body was stiff. Her hands were cold. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard footsteps outside my window, slow, careful, as if someone was counting their steps. By 2 a.m., I whispered to myself, "This village is not the same, and neither am I." The next morning, I went to see my father's land, the land he had left for me, the land I had dreamed about building something meaningful on. An elder who had known my father for decades met me near the palm trees at the edge of the property. His face changed when I mentioned my father's land. He said, "Which land?" I answered, "My father's land, the one behind the old palm trees." He sighed, a sound heavy with years of secrets. He said, "That land was sold many years ago." I laughed. It had to be a joke, until he added quietly, "Your mother sold it." My heart skipped a beat. "That's impossible," I said. "She has no right. The papers are in my name." The elder looked at me with pity. He said, "Not sold with papers," he said softly. "Sold with something else." Those words would haunt me forever. Spiritual agreement. And that was when I realized the truth. I hadn't come back to claim my land. I had come back to claim myself. The next morning, after a night I barely slept, I decided to dig deeper. I needed answers, not just about the land, but about my life, the way it had been quietly controlled, traded, and shaped without my knowledge. The village seemed alive in a way I had forgotten. Birds chirped lazily, children ran past the dusty roads, and the air smelled of wet earth from last night's rain. But beneath all of that, there was tension, a weight I couldn't see but could feel. I went to speak to an elder, the one everyone whispered about but feared. His name was Baba Kunle. He had been a close friend of my father, and knew things that people never spoke aloud. When I mentioned my father's land, his face darkened. "You're Temilola," he said slowly, as if confirming something he already knew. "Yes," I replied. "You must know, some things cannot be undone. What your mother did, it was not ordinary. She did not sell with money or papers. She sold it spiritually." The words hit me harder than a thunderclap. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask how a mother could do this to her own daughter. But the fear in Baba Kunle's eyes stopped me. "Show me," I whispered. He led me to a small, hidden path behind the old cocoa trees. The path was narrow, overgrown, and smelled of damp earth. At the end stood a small shrine, almost hidden under vines and shadows. The wood was dark, ancient, and carved with symbols I had never seen. "This," Baba Kunle said, "is where your mother made the covenant." I stepped closer, my heart hammering in my chest. The air was heavy. I could hear a faint whisper, almost like a chant, though no one was there. My stomach turned. "Why?" I asked, my voice breaking. Baba Kunle sighed. "Because she was desperate, because she wanted wealth, security, and she feared you would never leave the village or would fail without her help. So she made a deal, not with men, not with money, but with forces beyond our world." I felt nausea rise in me. My hands shook. My legs wanted to give out. I had always known that something had been holding me back, something invisible. "And this affects me?" I asked. Baba Kunle looked at me gravely. "It shaped your life, Temilola. It gave you struggle. It delayed your destiny. It kept your father's wealth from reaching you. And until it is addressed, it will continue to cast shadows over your life." I wanted to turn away. I wanted to run back to the city and pretend none of this existed. But deep down, I knew I couldn't. I had to confront it, face it, own it. And then, the truth hit harder than anything else. Baba Kunle's eyes softened, but there was pain in them too. "Your mother did not act alone. Someone else knew. Someone who benefited while you suffered." The wind rustled through the trees, carrying a chill with it. My head spun. My mother? Did she truly betray me alone, or was there someone else in the shadows? I realized then that this story, my life, my destiny, had layers I had never even begun to understand. And I knew that before I could reclaim what was mine, I had to face her.
I didn't sleep that night. I sat by the window of the small room I had stayed in, staring at the moonlight spilling over the dusty village street. My mind raced with every secret, every whispered word Baba Kunle had said. I knew that by sunrise, I had to confront my mother. The morning air was sharp, carrying the scent of wet earth and distant firewood. I stepped into the courtyard, and there she was, my mother, older, thinner, her eyes heavy with fatigue. But there was something else now, a flicker of fear. "Mama," I said, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. She looked at me, studied me as though seeing me for the first time in years. Then she said softly, "Temilola, you shouldn't have come back." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Why?" She hesitated, then finally spoke. "Because what I did for you. I thought I was protecting you." I laughed, but it was hollow. "Protecting me? Mama, you sold my destiny. You sold my father's land. You used me for what? Money? Rituals?" Her hands shook. She looked down, avoiding my gaze. I was desperate. We had nothing. I thought if I made the right deal, I could secure the family, ensure we survived. I felt bile rise in my throat. Survive? You destroyed me. You took what wasn't yours to give. The air between us was heavy, thick with unspoken truths. Then Baba Kunle stepped forward, his presence calm but commanding. Temilola, it's time you know everything. Not just the land, not just the deal, the full truth. He revealed the hidden details of the spiritual covenant, how my mother had called on forces she barely understood, how she had signed my fate away for 12 years without anyone noticing, and how others in the village had benefited while I struggled in the city. I couldn't believe it. Everything in my life that had felt like struggle, delay, and unseen obstacles, it had been orchestrated. My anger boiled. I wanted to scream, to strike, to undo everything she had done. But even in her weakness, even in the fear that now trembled in her eyes, I saw the complexity of her choices, the desperation, the fear of poverty, the survival instinct that had driven her to betray me. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding. Mama, I don't know if I can forgive you, but I can't let this shadow control me anymore. She whispered, barely audible, I never wanted you to hate me. I turned to leave, knowing that reclaiming my life, my destiny, required more than words. It required action, courage, and perhaps spiritual cleansing. As I walked past the shrine behind the cocoa trees, I whispered to myself, this ends now. I will not be bound by the mistakes of others. My destiny is mine. The sun had barely risen when I returned to the hidden shrine. The air was thick, carrying the scent of damp earth and old incense. Baba Kunle was already there, waiting. It's time, he said quietly, to reclaim what is yours, Temilola. I stepped closer, my heart racing. This wasn't just about land or wealth anymore. It was about my life, my future, my destiny. The spiritual agreement that had haunted me for 12 years would end today.
Together with Baba Kunle, we performed the cleansing ritual. It wasn't easy. The air felt heavier at times, as if the spirits themselves were resisting. But step by step, word by word, the bond that had been placed on me slowly unraveled. I felt something shift inside me, a weight lifted, a darkness fade. The land that had been stolen from me was still physically gone, but spiritually, I reclaimed it. I was no longer bound. My life, my choices, my destiny, they were mine again. Later, I sat with my mother. She looked at me with tears in her eyes, her hands trembling. I understand if you hate me, she whispered. I nodded. I will not forget, but hate cannot control my life. You made your choices, I will make mine, and I will rise regardless. The village elders watched quietly, some nodding in respect. I had faced my past. I had confronted betrayal, fear, and spiritual darkness, and I had survived. As I left the village that evening, walking past the familiar cocoa trees and dusty roads, I realized something profound. No one can dictate your destiny, not even those who gave you life. Your choices, your courage, and your persistence are the keys to your future. Shadows may exist, but they cannot bind a determined heart. Temilola, the girl who left the village 12 years ago with nothing but a dream, had returned stronger, wiser, and free.
2 years later, I finally had everything I once prayed for, and nothing felt real anymore. The city was beautiful in ways a village could never be. Tall buildings that kissed the clouds, roads that never slept, lights that made the night look like another kind of day. I lived on the 12th floor of a glass apartment, the kind I used to admire from afar when I had nothing but hope and tired legs. Now I had money, real money, the kind that silences fear. My business was doing well, too well. Clients came easily. Contracts fell into my hands without struggle. People trusted me almost instantly, even when I gave them no reason to. It felt like the world had finally decided to compensate me for everything I lost. At first, I called it grace, then luck, then destiny. But deep down, I knew it wasn't normal. Because every time something good happened to me, something strange happened to someone else. It started small. A colleague who openly mocked me during my first week at work was suddenly fired for a mistake I knew he didn't make. Another woman who tried to sabotage one of my deals lost her voice days before an important presentation. A man who cheated me out of money had his entire shop burnt down overnight. No witnesses, no explanation. And each time, my life moved forward. Promotions, new clients, more money. It was as if the universe was clearing my path, violently. At first, I didn't question it. I told myself life was finally being fair. After all, hadn't I suffered enough? Hadn't my childhood been stolen? Hadn't my own mother traded my future for her desperation? So if others fell while I rose, was that really my fault? But the feeling started changing. Every success began to feel heavy. Every blessing came with a quiet fear. I stopped celebrating, stopped posting on social media, stopped calling things miracles, because miracles don't usually leave this much silence behind. Sometimes late at night, I would sit alone in my apartment, staring at the city lights through my window, and feel watched, not by people, but by something deeper, something patient, something that remembered where I came from. I would hear a voice in my head, soft and familiar. Nothing is free, Temilola. I hadn't heard that voice in years, not since the village, not since the night I swore I would never look back. Yet here I was, successful, respected, admired, and slowly realizing that my life was beginning to resemble a transaction. I was no longer running from my past. My past was quietly investing in me. And the worst part, it wasn't asking for permission anymore. It was already collecting interest. The realization didn't come all at once. It came slowly, like a stain spreading on clean cloth. At first, I told myself I was overthinking. Trauma does that to people. It makes you suspicious of happiness. It teaches you to expect pain even in good moments. So whenever something strange happened around me, I brushed it off. Coincidence. Bad luck. Life. But then I started writing things down. Not intentionally. It just happened one night when I couldn't sleep. I took a notebook and began listing the names of people who had crossed me in one way or another since I moved to the city.
There were 12 names. By the time I reached the end of the list, only 3 of them were still doing well. One had lost his job. One had gone bankrupt. One had fallen seriously ill. One had been arrested for a crime I knew he was too careful to commit. And the rest? They had simply disappeared from my life, moved away, went silent, vanished. That was when the fear became real, because at the exact same time all of this was happening to them, my life was rising at a speed I couldn't logically explain. Every month was better than the last. Every deal succeeded. Every door opened. No rejection, no struggle, no delay. It felt unnatural. I tried an experiment. There was a woman in my office, Laura. She was kind, gentle, always supportive. One day, during a heated meeting, she accidentally took credit for my idea. The room laughed. I smiled. But inside, something shifted. Not anger, something colder. That night, I lay on my bed and thought about her. Not with rage, not with prayer, just a quiet thought. She shouldn't have done that. 2 days later, Laura collapsed at work. Severe anxiety attack. She never returned. That was the moment I knew. This was no longer coincidence. I wasn't just being protected. I was being assisted. The world around me was adjusting itself in my favor, not through opportunity, but through elimination. I remembered my childhood, the rituals my mother never explained, the whispers, the strange visitors, the way she always told me, some blessings don't come from heaven. I used to think she was warning me. Now I understood. She was preparing me. That night, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror, staring at my own reflection. I looked the same face, same eyes, but I felt like someone else was standing behind me, breathing through my success. My life was no longer just mine. It was a system, and I was sitting at the center of it, not as a victim, but as the beneficiary. The dream came the night I tried to resign. I had written the letter, printed it, folded it neatly. I told myself I needed a break from work, from the city, from everything that felt too easy. I wanted to disappear quietly before whatever was happening to me became irreversible. That night, I slept early for the first time in weeks, and that was the night it found me. I was standing in my old village, not as it was when I left, but darker, quieter, frozen in time. The cocoa trees were dry, the roads were empty, the air smelled like dust and old rain. Then I heard my name, not spoken, remembered. Temilola. I turned and saw her, my mother. She looked exactly the same as the last day I saw her. Same wrapper, same tired eyes, same gentle smile that used to hide too many secrets. But her feet weren't touching the ground. She floated slightly above the earth, like she belonged to something else now. I tried to speak. My mouth wouldn't move. She came closer and placed her hand on my chest. Not my body, my heart. And I felt it. The connection, the current, the inheritance. She whispered, "You thought you escaped me? No, my daughter, you completed me." Suddenly the village transformed. I saw images flashing around me, people kneeling, candles burning, my name written on a clay pot, my childhood tears being collected in a bowl. Then her voice again, deeper now. "I didn't sell you to darkness. I raised you for it." I fell to my knees in the dream. I screamed, and for the first time I heard another voice answer me, not hers, mine, but older, colder, stronger. "Nothing is free." I woke up screaming. My apartment was silent, but my body was shaking like I had just returned from somewhere I was never meant to remember. On my bedside table was the resignation letter. It had been torn in half. I knew then. I had not inherited money, not luck, not destiny. I had inherited a system, and systems do not let their investments walk away.
After the dream, I stopped pretending. I stopped acting like I was normal, stopped calling my life success, stopped lying to myself. Because the truth was clear. I was no longer living my life. I was maintaining a system. Every opportunity felt scripted. Every problem resolved itself without effort. Every person who stood in my way suffered in ways I didn't ask for, but didn't stop. And that was the worst part. I wasn't commanding it. I was allowing it. One evening, I stood on my balcony, staring at the city below. Thousands of lives moving, dreaming, struggling. I wondered how many of them would have to fall for me to keep rising. I thought of my mother. Not with anger anymore, with understanding. She was desperate. She wanted to survive. She wanted control over a world that kept humiliating her. So she chose power. And now that power had chosen me. The choice was simple. I could reject it, quit my job, return to the village, live quietly, struggle honestly. But I knew what that really meant. The system would not disappear. It would only turn against me. Or I could accept it, keep succeeding, keep winning. Let the invisible machinery keep clearing my path, not as a victim, but as a participant. I closed my eyes, and for the first time in my life, I did not pray. I listened. And in the silence, I understood the final truth. The world does not reward good people. It rewards those who are willing to pay the hidden price. When I opened my eyes, the city lights looked brighter, not because they had changed, but because I had. Not every blessing is from God. Some are loans from darkness, and the interest is your conscience. If this story touched you, don't just listen. Reflect. Share it with someone who believes success is always pure. And subscribe to Tales by Omo for more stories that expose the truths we are afraid to say out loud. Because sometimes the scariest stories are the ones that look exactly like real life. See you guys in our next chapter. Bye.